At the core of every documentary is a good story. So let's determine this. Let's define what a good story is. Let's talk about how assertive filmmakers approach creating a documentary. This is at the very beginning, and these are really, really crucial steps for you as a filmmaker. If you don't determine if you have a story or a good story, your film is destined to be mediocre. But you don't have to stress about that. I want to give you some really simple tips. Let me go over them first, and then I'll break them down further. First, you need to determine if you have a topic or a story. Second, you need to determine who your main character or main characters are. It's easier to follow one character, but sometimes you have multiple characters in a story. It's totally okay. Number three, you need to determine what your character wants, what the conflict in their life is, and if they want something, is that clear to the audience? And then fourth, you need to determine if you can actually tell this journey, this story towards what that person wants. So let's break down each one of these. A topic versus a story. Well, what is a topic? Well, I've spoken about this before on some past videos, but when we created the film Transcend, the first idea that Michael had for the film when he was directing it early on was he wanted to make a film about running. When you run, you have this transcendent experience. And that was a cool idea, but it wasn't yet a story. And so when Michael began filming that, we had just a series of interviews of people talking about running. And this wasn't a film. The film wasn't coming together because there was no story. We just had a topic, which was why running is kind of like this emotional experience, but it's not necessarily a story. But the film began taking shape when we discovered that one character, Wesley Career, had an interesting story. He was a Boston Marathon winner who was also trying to win in the Kenyan election. He wanted to become the first independent candidate in Kenyan history to win a seat in parliament. So not only had this guy won the Boston Marathon, but he was trying to win it the next year and win an election. Now, this is a story. And what we can do with this story is talk about the topic of how running is transcendent and how running is this spiritual and emotional experience. But now we have a story to carry this idea. So you need to ask yourself, do I have a topic or do I have a story? A story is not, well, my dad is a really good carpenter. That's not a story. But a story would be, my dad's a really good carpenter and he's trying to build this crazy deck for my family to have our summer experience on. It sounds like a terrible film, to be honest. Don't make that film. But you do have a story. The story is going to be your dad trying to build this deck, maybe before the family all comes to visit that summer. I don't know. That could end up being a really nice, heartwarming film. If you want to make a film about your dad building a deck, make that film. Don't let me stop you. But what I'm saying is just an idea that your dad is a carpenter isn't good enough. So the next point is, do you have a main character? Now, this should apply to most films. Sometimes you have multiple characters, like you look at a film like Kings of Kong. This had two main characters who it explored, but you had main characters. We knew who the film was about. We knew who we were following. Make sure if you're creating a film that you have a main character or main characters, like I said, and that we establish who they are very, very early on in the film. You look at any film, Grizzly Man, we know the main character is Timothy Treadwell right away. The film Transcendent Man is about the inventor Ray Kurzweil. We know who that film is about. Icarus, I can't pronounce the people's names in that film, but we know there's main characters. I can picture their faces in my mind right now, but we know who the film is following. Particle Fever. This is a film I really love. There's multiple main characters in this. We're following different scientists. All these great documentaries I just named have main characters or a main character, and we definitively know who they are early on in the film, and we get to follow them because we know what they want or the conflict in their life. Which brings me to my next point. Does your character have a conflict? Do they want something? Are they on a journey? Aaron Sorkin, who is an incredible writer in Hollywood, he says, if your character doesn't want something, they're not a character. Now, Aaron Sorkin's talking about writing a scripted film. We're talking about documentaries here. But the same would apply. If your character, if it's not clear that they don't want something, that there's not some conflict that they're trying to resolve in their life, then we won't care to watch them as a film. So again, say this to yourself, a topic is not a story. Cut the crap with all these ideas that I want to make a film about kiteboarding or picking just some random topic. Find a person, find someone who has some conflict in their life that they're trying to overcome. Find someone who's trying to accomplish something that they've never done before, and you will begin to have a film. The last question, the last thing an assertive filmmaker does at the beginning of creating an idea is they ask themselves, can I actually tell this story? Can I tell this journey of this main character? And the way you determine that is, can I get all the historical footage if this event has already happened? And this is where amazing filmmakers like Ken Burns use pictures and they use narration, they use sound effects to recreate events that have happened. Or can I acquire the footage that's going to happen? Is this person's life unfolding right now? And can I be present for that? And if you can't be present, can you get a cameraman to be present for you? And if you can't get that, can you get a camera into the hand of your main character for them to film themselves so that you can film what's happening? Your film will be very boring if it's just people retelling events. But that's where then some films are able to use recreation. And I'm going to talk all about documentary styles in a future video in this course. You should go check it out because I break down each style of documentary. But you need to determine, you need to be honest with yourself. Can I actually capture what's going to happen in this person's life? Or can I get the footage or can I recreate the moments that will help tell that person's story? If you can't do that, you're not going to have a film or you'll have a very, very boring one. And this is what assertive filmmakers do, is they're okay with having 20 ideas, cutting them down to 5 that they pitch to broadcasters or pitch to investors or pitch just even to themselves. And they're okay with if only one of them being made because they know that all those other stories were just topics, or maybe they couldn't get the footage, or maybe the story wasn't that clear and they didn't know the conflict that the character had. If you run your story ideas through these questions, I guarantee you that you're going to be setting yourself up for a more successful film than if you just tried to figure this out along the way.